Hi everyone, and welcome to this video, series of probably 3 videos covering these 3 separate points. So we're going to cover various other kind of Solvency II information. So we've talked about Solvency II generally and how it works numerically, and then we spent a little bit of time on internal model and standard formula, pros and cons, and then a little bit on how the standard formula actually works in practice, and also some problems to do with the standard formula. And all of the stuff we've talked about so far is all just about the numbers, how we work out what the Solvency II balance sheet is. However, there is a lot more to what Solvency II makes companies do than just the numbers. So we're going to cover some of those things here with this lecture. So we'll talk about what the 3 pillars of Solvency II are, then a couple of different ways that you'll come across when you're reading through material about how the legislation allows you to reduce the amount of capital that you have to hold, i.e. ways in which the legislation allows you to increase free assets. And then finally talk about supervisory intervention. So that means when the regulator comes to either speak to you or might even kind of take over the running of your company. Basically, if your solvency is getting very low, if your free assets are getting very low. So I think we'll do these as 3 separate videos, and this first one on the 3 pillars will be reasonably short. So let's kick off with 3 pillars. So the Solvency II regulation splits into 3 pillars. And you can just kind of think of this as 3 parts of the regulation, or 3 things that the regulation is built on in some sense. So they are, so first of all, Pillar 1. So these are the quantitative require, I just about fit that in, not really, hold on. In fact, let's just stick it on a, let's just stick that on a separate line. Quantitative requirements. These are the figures, comma, and this is what we have talked about so far. So Pillar 1 is just all about the numbers. So standard formula, internal model, and that's all the stuff that we've been talking about. What we haven't talked about are the other 2 pillars. So let's just write them down. So Pillar 2, these are supervisory requirements. So this tells you how you should manage the company. So how do you handle risk in the company? Do you make sure that risk is talked about at board of directors level? All this kind of thing. What kinds of groups you need in the company and how they should report to each other. All of this kind of thing is captured under Pillar 2. Also, there's something called the need to carry out an own risk and solvency assessment, which is the acronym ORSA. So you can think about this as a big document where you or the company itself analyzes the risks that it's exposed to and what its solvency is. So for instance, if you were an internal model company, the results of your internal model, or certainly some of the results with your internal model, would feed into this own risk and solvency assessment, because that internal model needs to be used in the risk management of the company in order to pass the use test. If you are a company that's using the standard formula, then there may well be some standard formula type results that occur in here, but you are kind of separate to that, judging the risks that you're exposed to and what your solvency should be. So that's Pillar 2. So it's all about making sure that you run the company well and thinking about risk. And to some extent, you could argue that Pillar 2 has more impact in terms of protecting policyholders than Pillar 1 does. Pillar 1 is just numbers, whereas Pillar 2 is actually what you're doing in terms of how you run the company. And then the third pillar, Pillar 3, is all about disclosure. So, what you need to disclose to different stakeholders. So there may be certain facts about the company that you need to make clear to the regulator, certain facts about the company that you need to make clear to the general public. And all this is captured under Pillar 3. And all three of these components make up the Solvency II regulations. So although we spend a lot of time thinking about the numbers, and obviously the numbers are important, there are these other two components here as well. Of these two, I would argue that Pillar 2 is the most important because it's all to do with how you manage the company. So you should definitely know that these three pillars exist. You should definitely know that an ORSA is required, and I think at this level those are the kind of main things that you need to capture or kind of hold in your brain about how the Solvency II legislation breaks down. Solvency II legislation is many pages long. So practically, when you're involved in a company, you're only going to spend time getting into the detail of the particular area that you are working on. But before you get there, it's important to know broadly what the different areas are. Okay, that was the three pillars. We'll take a break now and then come back to talking about a couple of ways in which the regulations allow you to reduce the amount of capital that you require, or if you like, allow you to increase your free assets.